124. This page is a focus in all the Hilchot Muktzeh. We're going to learn between 4 or 5, depending how you look, a different definition for Muktzeh. Muktzeh meaning something that's set aside for Shabbat, such as a hammer. You have many types of a hammer, some of them permissible, some of them not. Such as an example, something we discussed yesterday. If a hammer used for, remind me.
Well, you're talking about a goldsmith or a spice?
Goldsmith,
yep.
For example.
Yep.
So he's very strict to use it solely for that purposes. You go ahead and you're breaking nuts with that gold hammer. The guy is makpi, the guy is scrupulous. He doesn't want you because he's denigrating the value of the hammer. So that's called muktzeh mechamat chisaron kis, that you are belittle or reduce the value of that item. But there are other muktzeh, such as if it's set aside for other purposes. Remember we talk about the garlic and the mortar that's used for cutting garlic for different purposes, etc. So that's the main subject of today's daf. So we are on 124, 14 lines from the top of the page at the Mishnah. כל הכלים ניטלין לצורך ושלא לצורך. רבי נחמיה אומר אין ניטלין אלא לצורך. All type of vessels. So you remember yesterday and day before yesterday we discussed many type of vessels. You have certain vessels that use for purpose, specific purposes. So the Mishnah brought a general term and it said all the vessels that may be used for a specific purpose and not for the specific purpose. And Rabbi Nehemiah said regardless, vessel may only be moved for a specific purpose. So now you ask a question, what do you mean by that? The GEMARA right away tells us, "Mai letzorech umai shelo letzorech." What do you mean by saying for a specific purpose or not for a specific purpose? What do you mean by that? Amar Rabba said, and it's important to know that according to Rif and the Rosh is Amar Abaye, but we go the way that the text is written. So Rabbah, remember that word because we're going to have soon Rabbah and Rava, one with B, one with V, so it's a two different one. So Amar Rabbah with B in that sense. Letzorech, when the first Tana, the first opinion in the Mishnah said that you can carry all different vessels for a certain purpose, it means that you can carry davar shemelachto leheter letzorech gufo, that you need it, it's permitted for the purpose of utilizing the object itself. An example, you have a cage opener, you have these container openers. So what do? You open different things with that different type of food, different containers. You have for example a tuna fish a jar, you have a corn jar, you have peas, so you use that opener to open it. So when you get this one, this type of container opener, is a different word for that? Something that you open a container?
Can opener, you mean?
Can opener,
yep.
So if you, but I knew that, notice that there are different types. There are those who are go around like a machine, the other, anyway. When you're using this can opener, it's not the purpose for that. You take it and use it to open a can. So it means in the Hebrew language, letzorech gufo, for the purpose of using the can opener to open a can. Now, shelo letzorech, when we said that you allow, according to the first one, you allow to carry it not for its own purpose, guess what? דבר שמלאכתו להיתר לצורך מקומו, that you can carry that for the purpose of that specific place. What does that mean? Let's say, for example, a key. You have a key. What do you do with the key? You open doors. So the purpose of that key is to open doors. Okay? Now, imagine if you go and about to sit on your chair and you see a key sitting on a chair. So what do you need to do? You need to take out the key and move it elsewhere in order for you to see. So what happened here, you're using it for what? For the purpose of utilizing its place, which is not on the place you sit. Now we said it means דבר שמלאכתו להיתר לצורך מקומו ודבר שמלאכתו לאיסור לצורך גופו אין, לצורך מקומו לא. Which is, if you take as example a hammer, you use a hammer. You have a hammer is on your chair. So what happened now? You need to take off the hammer from your chair, but the hammer is set aside. It's muktzeh, right? So, do you allow to remove the hammer from the chair if you have other chairs? What do you think?
If you have other chairs, I'd say no.
No, that's correct. However,
wouldn't it depend on the kind of hammer? Whether if it's
but let's say a big hammer, huge hammer, sitting on somebody, one of your kids or my grandchildren, one of them left the hammer on the chair. Okay? And now what happened is, you know, my grandkids, they are very hyper, as you know. So you have this on the chair, and you have other options, you have other chairs. So far we learn that you cannot move it. However, if you need to open for your kids a nuts, and you have no other way, according to that opinion, can I take this big hammer and boom, break the nuts? The answer is yes. Because again, what is the mindset here? We said you can move this specific vessel for the purpose of utilizing the object itself, but or permitted for the purpose of utilizing its place. But an object whose primary function is for prohibited use, for the purpose of utilizing the sub-object itself, so we said it's an issue. If for the purpose of utilizing for its place, such as taking the hammer and move it elsewhere, the answer is no, it is prohibited. Now, ve'ata Rabbi Nehemia lemeimar, so Rabbi Nehemia came in the picture and he said, ואפילו דבר שמלאכתו להיתר, even something that you allow in this vessel permitted for the purpose of utilizing it for something that permitted לצורך גופו, for the purpose of utilizing the object itself, the answer is yes. For the purpose of the location of the place, no. Which means the truth of the matter that Rabbi Nehemia here allowed to carry any vessel only for the specific use, for specific designated use. So now Rava, for us in English with V, here respond to Rabbah with B, or in Hebrew it's Aleph and Hey. Amar lei Rava לצורך מקומו שלא לצורך כרית ליה. You tell me for a specific purpose mean moving an object whose primary function is for a permitted use, both for the purpose of utilizing the object itself and for the purpose of utilizing its place. So, what happened here? If you need to use it, you included, when you use the term כל הכלים ניתנים לצורך, all the vessels can use, you included everything in that. אלא אמר רבא לצורך, Rava objected, so he said, I understand, so it means לצורך מקומו שלא לצורך דבר שמלאכתו להיתר, בין לצורך גופו בין לצורך מקומו. He said if something is for the purpose of something that is permissible, so you can move it regardless for its place or for its use. For example, take a hammer. You need to break those nuts. So the hammer is considering kli shemelachto le'isu. This vessel for the purpose of something that is prohibited, because basically what do you use hammer for?
Building.
Building.
Or
so therefore, what?
Or striking the final blow.
You're right. So basically we said that with hammer asur letaltel, you cannot carry it.
Right.
Now we said shelo letzorech. What do you mean when you said not for the specific purpose? It means ve'afilu mechama letzel, moving it even from the sun to the shade area. So that's a lower level of need. So it's considering shelo letzorech, not for its purpose. In other words, you have, for example, trace a situation. You have a vessels that made out of expensive silver. And if they are staying in a long time in the sun, it can damage them. So now you want to move them to a shady area if it's a very hot summer. So v'davar shemelachto le'isu, but if it's a purpose or something utilizing an object that the purpose is utilizing it for something that is forbidden, letzorech gufo uletzorech mekomo ein. If you need it for the purpose of itself, such as we said, you need it for the use it for that own need. So ein, you allow mechama letzel lo, from the sun to the shade, no, which means it's prohibited. Ve'ata Rabbi Nechemia lemeimar. So Rabbi Nechemia came in and he said, ואפילו דבר שמלאכתו להיתר, even something that you have the purpose, that it's utilizing something that it's permissible, לצורך גופו in, for the purpose of utilizing its place, yes, ולצורך מקומו אין, for the object itself and the place, yes, מחמה לצל, לא. From the sun to the shade, no, it is prohibited. So Rabbi Nechemia is not halacha lemausa, is not practical, but it's important to understand what is the letzorech gufo. According to Rabbi Nechemia, when he used the term letzorech gufo, it's not like the first Tana, the first opinion, because the first Tana said you can move it for something that you're allowed to do it on Shabbat. Rabbi Nechemia said that it's only for the specific use. Let's use some practical examples so you see what they are talking about. Let's say you have a talit, or in Yiddish talis. You take the talis. What's the purpose of the talis?
Well, it's to wear for davening.
Well, for davening, for praying. Now you take this talis and you use it to cover yourself, to have some shade in the very sunny day. What happened here? The talis has a purpose. It's made for use for certain purpose. For what? To wrap yourself while you're praying. You're taking it and you use it for something else, which is a protection. Is a rainy situation or sunny. What?
To wear it as a garment.
As a garment. Yeah, but not just as a garment.
But to
have as a protected against the weather.
Right.
Can be sunny, for example. Another example. Let's say you have utensils, knife, fork. So imagine a fellow like to play with knife and fork on Shabbat. Is that okay?
No.
Yes, why not?
Play with it.
Wait, what we said? We said that when you have utensils like knife and fork, you can use them to eat, for the purpose of eating. So if you want just to play a little game, we're not talking yet in practical halacha, we just try to get the mindset. It's not a problem, right? Let me share with you what the Shulchan Aruch, the code, the Mechaber said in Siman Shin Chet, Seif Dalet, chapter 308. He said, and I'm just quoting the Ran here because the Ran is very important. He said, Rabbeinu Nissi, he said, Tiltul, if you need to carry, let's say, for example, let me just to abbreviate what they said. You need to carry a book. Imagine a fellow, he carries a book. He needs to carry a book. Why needs to carry the book? Let's say he is reading many times, but he has an issue on Shabbat. He wants to impress everybody that he's a very learned person, so he needs to carry the book all the day long. Any place he goes, he carries this book with him, right? Is a problem or not?
Well, it's a problem if he transfers it from a private domain
no, but
to a
let's
public
say if
domain.
it's a place you have a day room, and he carries that book all over. You can carry, right?
Yes, no.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can carry it.
Now, imagine if he has a beautiful cake he made on Friday. He wants to show the whole neighborhood. He will carry this cake for hours every place. Is that a problem? No, right? Now, if he takes these utensils, this knife and fork, he needs for what purpose?
Eat.
For eat. Now he decided to take this knife and fork and walking in the street to show everybody the knife and fork. Is that permissible? The answer is no.
No.
Okay? So let me elaborate on that a little bit. We said in the previous 2 days ago, 2 pages, that in the time of the second Beit HaMikdash, the second temple, you remember we talked about Nehemiah, that he, as you read in the book of Nehemiah and you read also in the book of Ezra, he saw a very serious denigration of observance of Shabbat at the era of the second temple, early era of the second temple, and as a result he put a lot of boundaries, a lot of decrees. He was the administrator of Ezra. Ezra was the leader, spiritual leader that led the people, and Nehemiah was a practical administrator, his right hand. He is the main builder, and he saw a lot of problems with people, so they put those boundaries. Okay. Later we said 2 days ago that the rabbis came and saw that people observing it properly, they make leniencies and another leniencies and another leniencies, because they saw that it's okay. But again, certain things they did not permit. So in a sense, carrying the knife and fork in a public domain or whatever it is, if you don't need it for eating, to eat whatever it is, to use the knife and fork, there's no reason for us, meaning the rabbis, to allow people to go and carry it on Shabbat. Is that clear? Did I make case clearly? Okay. So now we see a dialogue between Amoraim in that regard. Yativ Rav Safra veRav Acha bar Una veRav Huna bar Chanina veYatvei veKa'amrei. All these great rabbis sat together and they said, LeRabbah, according to Rabbah, would be Aliba de Rabbi Nehemiah. So by the way, I keep saying that according to Rif and the Rosh, the Girsa here is Abayev. But we go just by the way it's written here. So he said that Rabbah, in the way that he interpreted the Mishnah, he hold according to Rabbi Nehemiah, which means that you cannot carry a vessel for the purpose of something that it's allowed, for the utilizing it for its own place. Hane ke'arot heiche metaltelinen. You know, when you need to eat, what happened? You need all those pots, all these places you have, for example, salads, places that you put let's say dish and things like that. How come you allow that to do on Shabbat? So he answered and he said, such as trace a situation. You set up the table, you have guests or your family, you set up the table, you have knives and fork and spoon and everything set. The meal was over. How come you're allowed to take all the utensils from the table? How come? אמר לו רב ספרא, מידי דהבה אגרף של ראי. Rav Safra said, you may move them just in the case of chamber part containing waste that may be moved because it's disgusting. You remember what we said day before yesterday? So he said the same way you allow here. It's called mechamat mi'us because it's disgusting to keep it there. So far what we understand. We have here two different shitot, two different school of thought. One is shitat Rabbah with B, and one is shitat Rava in our language with V. Rabbah hold that the first Tana, the first opinion, the Mishnah, that said mutar letaltel kli shemelachto leheter, you allowed to carry a vessel for something that it's permissible. So it means that for anything that it's permissible, can be either for the purpose of something that is permissible or something that you need for its own place. However, kli shemelachto leisu, if you have a vessel for something that its purpose is forbidden, so he said if letzorich shimush heter, so if you needed to break the nuts with a hammer, so it's fine, but not shimush mekomo, but not for its place. That's the way that Rabbah understands. And he also understands the other opinion of Rabbi Nehemiah, so that you're allowed to carry only for something that you designated in advance for that purpose. That's Rabbah school of thought understanding the Mishnah. Rava came in and he said, according to the first opinion of the Mishnah, you're allowed to carry a vessel that you need for something that is permissible, regardless if it's utilizing it for its own needs or for the place for its utilizing for its place, and regardless if you need to remove it from a shady area, from the sunny area to a shade area, and something that it's designated for something that it's forbidden. There he said, if you need it for its own purpose, fine, but not from a sun to the shade. That's not. Now, he hold also the Rabbi Nehemiah opinion, Rava hold that Rabbi Nehemiah opinion in the Mishnah, you're allowed to carry anything that it's designated for something that is permissible only for the sake of something that it was designated clearly in advance or for its own place. If you pay attention, you see that this Rava, it's matching what we said yesterday in all idea of Gzeirat Kelim, when we put the decree of the utensils. Amar le Abaye le Rabbah. Abaye said to Rabbah, which is different one than Rava. Okay? Lemar aliba de Rabbi Nehemiah.
It says here le Rabbah.
Le Rabbah with hay.
No, it says with aleph in here.
Amar le Abaye le Rabbah. You are in the right place.
Oh no, I'm sorry, I was at ATV. Sorry, never mind.
Gilbert will show you.
Yeah, I know, I see where I'm at. I was a little ahead.
Amar le Abaye le Rabbah. Lemar aliba de Rabbi Nehemiah. According to the opinion of the Rabbi Nehemiah, Hane ke'arot herchem metaltelin alu. We ask that question, how come you're allowed to carry these empty bowls? How come we carry them? So he answered and he said, Amar le Rabbah, answer to Abaye, and he said, Rav Safra Chavrin Tirgema, our friend Rav Safra explained it, colleagues, and he interpreted it, Mide dehava agraf shel re'i. The same, you compare, you juxtapose the same way that the case of chamber part that is discussing, that's the reason they allow it here. So now Abaye asked in regard to the opinion of Rava with V, the way that we understand this Mishnah. So now we bring back the two questions. Eitive Abaye le Rava with V. Medocha. You remember yesterday we discussed a mortar, which is a special, how do you call that you squeeze a garlic?
Well, crushed garlic, but
crushed garlic.
It's like usually like a stone bowl that you put the garlic in, and you
in ancient time they used it for that purpose.
They also use it to crush other spices and so forth.
In Hebrew, thank you. In Hebrew, you call it medocha. That you use it specifically to crush garlics.
Right.
Now, what happened is im yesh bashum metaltelim ota. If you have in garlic, which means you don't need the medocha, you need the garlic. So you're allowed to go ahead and carry it. Ve'im lav en metaltelim ota. But if it's just you want to carry that medocha, you cannot carry it. So it means, according to Rabbah with B, we understand that the Braita meant to forbid any type of carrying this medocha, I'm using the Hebrew word, for the purpose of itself. But according to your opinion, that you're allowed to carry a vessel, that its purpose is forbidden also for the purpose of its place, how do you explain this Braita? That you said what? That for the purpose of the garlic you allow, otherwise not. He said, Hacha b'maya skin, and he responded and he said, here we're speaking about specific situation that you want to carry it because you need to move it from a sunny area to the shade area, which means you're concerned, let's say if it's a brand new, and outside is South Florida in the summer and it's 100 and who knows 20 or 30 or 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're afraid that this medocha is going to ruin if it stays for a long time in the sun.
You're concerned that the garlic will spoil, right? If you
garlic will spoil, but that's the so you
move. Protecting the garlic or the medocha.
Good. That's basically. The Ritva and the Rashba discuss here what exactly it meant when they said moving this medocha. It meant for the medocha itself, or it meant for the garlic. So the point is, everyone agrees that if it's for the garlic, you can carry it. But again, here is the sharp point. You're allowed to carry it because of the garlic, or you're allowed to carry because if from the sunny to the shade area, that keeps the meducha in a good walking condition. So ATV.
But what about moving it from the sun to the shade to keep the garlic in a good condition?
Excellent. That's part of these disputes. That's part of these big discussions. Most of the rabbis, the way that so far we understand.
I mean, I understand you can carry it if you need to use the garlic, like for a meal or something like that. But now we're talking about just to protect the garlic.
Yes, you guys fully now comprehend the discussion. Our discussion is we have a different entities here. We have an entity of needs for this food. So again, everyone agrees that if you need it for immediate meal,
right?
So that's a one story, one situation that people, the rabbis go lenient.
Absolutely.
But if it's not for that meal purposes, such as you want to observe the garlic will be used for the following day, or you want to use that one to keep the condition of the meducha the same way. That's the big discussion here, okay? ATV. So Abaye asked and tried to prove from another Braita. Veshavim. You remember we said yesterday that it was a machloket, it was opinion in regard to Eli on festival between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. So he said Veshavim, that both Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai agreed that she'im kitzev alav basar, if one cut meat on it for the purpose of the festival, she'asur letaltelo, that is then prohibited to move it. Why? Because there is no further need for the festival. So what you see? You see that according to Rava's opinion, all utensils may be moved. So he answered to him and he said, Hachaname mechama latzeh. So he said, here too we're dealing with a case that moving this medocha, this mortar, from where? From the sun to the shade. So now we ask a question according to those both opinions. V'haditnan, what we learn in Tractate Beitza. page 32b, אין סומכים את הגדרה בבקעת וכן בדלת. One may not prop a pot with piece of food, and so too one may not prop a door on a piece of food. So you see here that וכן דלת, it's also the opposite. So you don't do it neither way, Rashi said. So והבקעת דביום טוב דבר שמלאכתו להיתרו. But here you see, if you have this beka'at, it's piece of food on festival, an object whose primary function is for permitted use. And you see here, the alma, דבר שמלאכתו להיתר, בין לצורך גופו, בין לצורך מקומו, אסור. So you learn from that an object whose primary function is for permitted use, both for the purpose of utilizing the object itself or the purpose of utilizing its place, both way is forbidden, because usually you use it to what? To warm the house, that it's type of labor that you're allowed to do on festival. But because the Mishnah forbade it, for Rashi said for the other purpose, which is holding this kdeira, this part of food, so even you need it for the purpose of itself, so for sure you cannot, it's forbidden to carry it for letzorech mekoma, for its place. So the Gemara said, Hatam, my tama. The respond, they said, what's the reason the Mishnah that we forbid to carry this beka'at, this type of a pot? He said the reason is kevan de b'Shabbat davar shemelachto lo isur gzera yom tov atu Shabbat. Because the reason is that because on Shabbat it is an object whose primary function is for a prohibited use. So since the wood is set aside for use on Shabbat, it's muktzeh. So the rabbis issue a decree prohibited moving it on festival due to Shabbat. So they ask, V'chi teima. And V'chi teima Shabbat gufei, זה הדבר שמלאכתו לאיסור לצורך תשתרי. זה הדבר שמלאכתו לאיסור לצורך גופו לצורך מקומו שרי. הנמילה אחד היא כתורת כלי עליו, ואחד אלה כתורת כלי עליו לא. So here you see a situation, traces a, let's say a stone. You have a stone, and you need to move the stone. So what happened here? Can you take out the stone and move it from different location? So regardless if it's for the purpose of gufo, for itself, or letzorech mekomo, its place, it's muktzeh, it's isur muktzeh, which is the prohibition set aside. So the isur, it's called mechamad gufo. It's something new that we learn, that is forbidden for its own sake. So according to the Ran, that's forbidden. So now they ask a question, umigazrinan. So we basically do not do which called tircha yetera. We don't do an extra work on Shabbat. We try to put a work in amount of time that we're not overextending ourselves in honor of Shabbat. So they said, Ve'atnan, we learn in Tractate Beitzah 35b, Meshilim perot derech aruka biyom tov aval lo b'Shabbat, which means we say that we're not allowed to have tircha yetera. We're not allowed to have an extra labor, extra work on Shabbat. So you remember we studied not long ago, if you have a water, shlulit, you have some water on your way, you need to jump over, right, to go around. So it's an issue of tircha yetera, that you need to go all around. You remember we studied it? Or for example, you need to feed an animal. Or I'll give you a better example. Let's say you have a fig. The Mishnah said, you have fig, you put a big large amount of figs on your roof. What's the purpose? or you want them to dry out, and you want them to be ripe, so you can use it either for sell or for eat or whatever you need it, right? Now, all of a sudden, you notice this is a festival, and you notice all of a sudden, ooh, it turned very dark, and it's going to be a heavy rain. Now, what happened? Do you allow to go ahead to the roof on a festival and pick up all these tremendous amount of figs you put before a festival and take it out?
I'd say yes on a festival.
The answer is yes. Why? It's called hefsed merube. The Mishna said that meshilin, one may drop fruits from the roof through a skylight on a festival, is because it's great loss, the hefsed merube, so we allow it. Aval lo b'Shabbat, but not on Shabbat, which means that the sages do not prohibit on a festival all of the action that was prohibited on Shabbat. So they said, so what happened here? So it's a question. So they said, umilo gazrina. So the GEMARA wants to protect this answer, and they said, and we do not issue decree on a festival due to Shabbat. Ve'atnan, we learn in the Tractate Beya, page 36b, en Yom Tov, en ben Yom Tov leShabbat, ela ochel nefesh bilvad. So Tosfot here explains to us that what's the difference between Shabbat and Yom Tov? All the prohibitions on Shabbat apply to festival as well. The only thing we have a difference is if you need the food for the sake ochel nefesh, you need the preparing food alone for the sake of you need to eat something on a festival. So that's a different. So it means that something that not relate to of food preparations, the rabbis forbade on a festival the same as Shabbat. So now you see a contradiction between the Mishnah, because in one place we said that to take out the figs from the roof, that they said okay, you can do that, and the others we forbids anything else. Amar Rav Yosef lo kashya, ha Rabbi Eliezer, ha Rabbi Yoshua. Yosef said that's not a question. The Mishnah that said that is the difference between Yom Tov and Shabbat is according to Rabbi Eliezer, that he said that all is forbidden, but if it's a great loss, you're allowed to. And the other one that said that in Yom Tov you're allowed to take these fruits. I'm sorry, the opposite. Rabbi Eliezer said that in the one place that is forbids any type of extra tircha, extra labor on Yom Tov, even if it's involved with loss of money. Rabbi Yoshua, however, said in order for a person not to lose tremendous amount of money, in Yom Tov you allow him to take out the fig from the roof versus Shabbat. So everyone agrees that on Shabbat is forbidden. The difference is, in the opinion on Yom Tov, between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua allowed, Rabbi Eliezer not. The Tanya, we bring that this dispute in a different location. They said, Oto ve'ed beno. The Torah forbids us to slaughter animal and its son the same day. It's forbidden in Torah. They said in Leviticus chapter 22, Oto ve'ed beno, him and his son, you shall not slaughter in one day. So what happened is, shenaflu lebo, if it happens that the animal and the baby, they both fell into a pit, and it is when on festival, so we are forbidden to have any tircha, any type of extra labor on Yom Tov. Only the thing that we allow, if you need to slaughter for the sake of food, you have no food, you need to slaughter animal in order to eat it for a festival. So that's allow. But here you have the issue, you cannot slaughter both of them the same day and both of them in a pit. So what do? You see now the enter not so much practical, but just to get the mindset of how they are thinking. רבי אליעזר אומר מעלה את הראשון על מנת שוחטו ושוחטו, והשני עושה לו פרנסה במקומו בשביל שלא ימות. Rabbi Eliezer said no. You can take only one. So you take one of them. Let's say you take for example, the sun. You take one of them for the purpose of eating it, slaughtering, eating it, and the second you feed them. You feed the second one in a pit in order for the livelihood, that you not lose it, because otherwise it's going to die there. Rabbi Yoshua said no, you should do differently. Ma'ale et harishon al menat leshochato ve'eno shochato. You pull out, let's say for example the baby, and it's like you're about to slaughter but you don't. You put it out. Uma'arim uma'ale et hasheni. So he said, and then you employ artifice, which means, now you reconsider, you change your mind, you don't want to take the baby, and what do? Uma'ale et hasheni. So the second one is like, it's much fatter, it's much bigger, I'm going to feed more people with that, and then I'm going to slaughter that one. So after you put both of them, then Ratza ze shochet, Ratza ze shochet. Now you pick and choose which one of them you want to slaughter. So it means that what happened here, Rabbi Yoshua is more lenient as far as the tircha, as far as the effort to pull them out from a pit on Yom Tov, in order to avoid loss of money. Rabbi Eliezer is stricter, and he forbids even in a place that you're going to lose income or money. So now we're going to explain. And we said that here we understand the contradiction. The Mishnah that they allow to carry those figs from the roof, it's according to whom? To Rabbi Yoshua, right? And according to his opinion, there is a difference in the decree of the sages between Shabbat and Yom Tov. Rabbi Eliezer disagree. He doesn't allow us to make any effort on a festival, even for the purpose of saving money. So therefore, is no difference according to him between festival and Shabbat, and the Mishnah that compare both Yom Tov and Shabbat is according to Rabbi Eliezer. So the GEMARA rejected it and it said, Mimai. How you compare the two examples? Dilma ad kan lo kamar Rabbi Eliezer atam ela de'efshar leparnasa. So he said, all the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer is as long as you need to feed the other animal in a pit. So it's not so much lost if you don't take it out on Yom Tov. אבל אחד לא יפר לפרנסה לא. So it means if it's not for that purpose, he will permit raising the animal. אינם מעט כאן לא כמה רבי יהושע אתם אפשר ברמה, אבל אחד לא אפשר ברמה לא. Rabbi Yoshua only said that it was possible to employ artifice, but if not, if you do that shtick, that trick, it's not. אלא אמר רב פאפה לא קשה, so Rav Papa said it's not a question. בית שמאי בית הלל, this מחלוקת is according to בית שמאי בית הלל. דתנן, בית שמאי אומרים 124b. בית שמאי said, אין מוצאים את הקטן ואת הלולב ואת ספר תורה לרשות הרבים ואת זה מתירים. They said, one may not carry a child or lulav or Torah scroll out of the public domain on festival, and Beit Hillel allow. So you see that Beit Hillel allow carrying object from one domain to another on a festival for the purpose of other than preparing food. So they said, Eimar deshamat lebet Shammai otzaa titul mishamat lei. What you understand according to Beit Shammai is just carries, hotzaa, which is a carrying object. But did you hear that they prohibited moving an object? So they said v'tiltul gufei lav mishum hotza'u, and moving itself decree, it's a issue due to the prohibition of carrying out. So one who prohibit carrying, it's for sure prohibited moving any object. ואף רב סבר להודעה דרב אדם הרב מר שלא יגנב, זהו טיטול שלא לצורך ואסור. So he said that if moving a hole, that it will not be stolen, so you move the object for the specific purpose is prohibited. So he said, Tama shelo yiganeb, the reason it's because you don't want somebody to steal it. אבל לצורך גופו לצורך מקומו מותר, but the purpose of utilizing for itself for the place is permitted. So they said, Eini, is that true? Rav Kahana Rav Kahana came to the house of Rab. ואמר, אית לו ישות הלכנה לאיתי ולי, לאו לממרד לדבר שמחתו לאיסור לצורך גופו, אין לצורך מקומו לא. He said that bring out a net from Rav Kahana so that may sit on it. So is that not say that with regard to an object whose primary function is prohibited for the purpose of utilizing the subject itself, it's yes. Otherwise, no. So that's what he said to them. Shkolu shuta mikamei kahana. Remove the net from before kahana. The other option is moving it from the sun to shade. Rav Mari Barachel Avalei Beisadiota Beshimsha. Mary Barachel, we explained several times that using the mother because it was an issue of the father. But anyway, he came before Abba and he said to him, so he felt a caution in the sun on Shabbat. So he came before the Abba and he said, Amalu Ma'aletu, can I carry it? Amar leishave, he said, yes, you're allowed to go ahead and carry it. So it le'acharina chazu lo'ochin, it le'ochin. So he said to Rabbi, I have others, and I don't need this caution specifically. So Rabbi said to him, even so, it's the caution are suitable for guests. So he said, I also have other guests, and therefore will be moving the cautions so they will not ruin in the sun. Amar le galida tech. Now we reveal your opinion and hold that what? The kerabba sviralach, that you hold according to the opinion of Rabbah. Which means lekule al meshar ledida chasir. For everyone else it's permitted, for you it's forbidden. Why? Because it's he hold that it's inappropriate to permit one to perform an action that he considered prohibited. So that's the Ran explained that even Rava himself hold that something that klisha melach tolet, or something that they go for the permissible. So if you need to move it from the sun to the shade, it's okay. But since he hold like a Rava, so they hold that it's forbidden, so you have to go by that way. So everybody else is okay, but for you it's not. Omar Rabbi Abba Amar Rabchi Abarashi Amarav mechabdot shel melta. He said with regard to brooms made for finer wool garments, mutar letatelam b'Shabbat, aval shegmara lo, it's permitted to move them on Shabbat, it's permitted to use them. However, brooms made of date palm fronds, no. It's permitted to fill the holes in the ground. Rabbi Lazar Omer, af shel tmara, even made of the date palm fronds. B'ma yaskinan? They ask, what does that mean? What's the difference? Ilon tzorech gufo tzorech gmor ba'alei marav shel tmara lo. If the curl is utilizing for its purpose, for its own purpose, or for the locations, or I've said that the date palm fronds, no, maybe move. Veha Rav Krava Svirale doesn't travel according to the opinion of Rabbah. Ela mechamal etzel, only you can say that it's for the purpose of moving it from the sun to the shade. Be'aleima Rabbi Lazar av shel tmara. So in this case, where Rabbi Lazar said that even brooms made from date palm fronds may be moved, le'olam mechamal etzel, so they go back and they said actually this is referring to moving from the sun, that they will be damaged. Eima v'chen amar Rabbi Lazar, and he said so too. Rabbi Lazar said like Rab, that is prohibited. Mishna, kol hakelim nitalim b'Shabbat shivrei nitalim mimehem. All the vessels may be moved on Shabbat, and their shares may be moved along with them. Bilvad shiusim me'en melacha, as long as they suit for some purpose. So some purpose, the melacha kolshi, any type of melacha, even that others, but Ritva said that that's the only reason that it's not mukse, that it's not set aside, because it's uyim leshimush, but can use it for that purpose. So for example, shivrei areva, lechasot b'hem pi achavit, sherd of large ball may be used to cover the mouth of the barrel. Shivrei zchuchit, lechasot b'hem pi apach, the sherd of glass vessel may be used to cover shard. So shards of glass vessel may be used to cover the mouth of a crab. So piapach is talk about very small. How do you call it? Kras?
They say a flask here.
Flask here. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ובלבד שעושים מעין מלאכתם. He said that it's not enough that those pieces are ready for certain type of work, but they have to use it the same as originally. For example, it's when they are full piece, they will not fall apart. Shivrei areva. So if you have a shards of a large ball, so they said must be suited for latzuk miltocha mikpa, to pour a soup into it. V'shel zchuchit latzuk letocha shemen, and if it's made out of glass, to pour oil into it. Omar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, GEMARA said machloket shenishberu me'erev Shabbat. The different opinion is, it's one they broke before Shabbat. Amar savar men melachtan in men melacha acheret lo. That one hold that if it's me'ein melacha, it's almost like the original one, so fine, otherwise not. Umar savar, the Tana Kama hold that you can carry them afilu me'ein melacha achat, even like the original one. Aval shenishberu b'Shabbat, but if it's fall apart on Shabbat, divrei kol mutarim. Everyone said that they allow. Why? Ho'il, because muchanim al gabe avim, because before Shabbat, when they are dying full piece, not broken, it's ready to use together with their father, which means the pieces that was a full part wasn't broken. So therefore, mutar, everyone agreed that now you can carry it after they are fall apart, they broke. Motive Rav Zotai, so Rav Zotai asked from another Braita Masikim, you allowed to heat on Yom Tov bekelim, in the full vessels that when Masikim b'shivrei kelim, you cannot eat with the shard pieces. Why? Because it's a muktzeh, it's a set aside, you cannot carry them. Denishberu emat, when they are broken. Ilema denishberu me'erev Yom Tov, if you tell me that they are broke before Yom Tov. Etzim be'almanim is a regular wood pieces, because they need for use to heat on Yom Tov. So for sure you designated in advance, you can go ahead and heat them on Yom Tov. El alav b'Yom Tov, you have to say that those vessels were broken on Yom Tov, on festival. We just learned that you can heat in original pieces, but not in shard pieces. So you have to say this idea on the name of Shmuel in as follows. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel machloket shenishberu b'Shabbat. The whole disputation is all when they are broke on Shabbat. The Mar Savar Muchanu, Mar Savar Nolad. One said that it's prepared in advance, one said that it's carried like a newborn on Shabbat, which means that since it's a newborn on Shabbat, it's not Muchan, it wasn't prepared in advance, and therefore it's considering set aside like Muktzeh. Aval me'erev Shabbat divrei kol mutarim. If you set aside those pieces before Shabbat, everyone said that they allow to use it, even if it's not good for the original plan, because it's prepared in advance before in advance for certain purpose. So if you designate it, if you have the thought in advance, then it's different, then it's allowed. So one Braita said that you can heat with a full piece but not broke. The other one said no. The same way as you allow to eat in one, you can allow also in shard pieces. You have a third one that said neither one can heat. So now you have to go to a very clear definition of muktzeh, because what we learned today is a lot of different categories of muktzeh. Ha Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, Ha Rabbi Nechemia. You have three different braytot. One who hold according to Rabbi Yehuda that is much stricter in muktzeh, and he hold that if it's nolad, if it's newborn doing Yom Tov, it's doing festival, it's considering muktzeh. So that therefore the brayta forbids to heat in those pieces that was broke on Yom Tov, because before Yom Tov they're not ready for heat, and therefore it's like you heat on a festival. The second one is according to Rabbi Shimon, that is much lenient in muktzeh. He doesn't forbid something that was nolad, that was born on Yom Tov. And the third one is Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Nechemia, what did he say? He said that you can carry any vessel that you need for the specific tzorech tashmishot, the specific needs of that vessel, otherwise not. So he said that if you have a full vessel that it's not for the purpose of heating, it's forbidden. Rabbi Nechemia said that even to carry it from one location to another, move it, is forbidden. Amar Rav Nachman, you have a building, and he said that you have that building, that the bricks will remain in the building after constructions was completed. So he said, So he said that you're allowed to go to move them on Shabbat because they are suited for one to sit on them. So he said, "Sharginu v'avadai aktzinu." So if one arranges them in a pile, he certainly thereby set them aside for his consciousness, and he's prohibited to move them. אמר רב נחמן הרב שמואל חרס, קטנה מותר לטלטל בחצר. He said that a small earthware shard is permitted to move it on Shabbat in the courtyard. אבל בכרמלית לא, but in Carmelit you cannot move it, because in Carmelit it's not so many earthware, so it's nothing you can cover, you cannot move it from one location. Rav Nachman Didei, Amar Rav Nachman himself said that you can carry even אפילו בכרמלית, אבל ברשות הרבים לא, but in the public domain לא. ורב אמר אפילו ברשות הרבים, Rava said even in the public domain you can carry it. Why? ואז the Rava לטעמי Rava explained, the Rava אבקיל בריסטיקה דמחוזה, that the Rava will walk in public domain in a city called Mechoza, הסתווי מסנתינה, his shoes became dirt, Ata Shammai, his attendants come, Shakal Chaspa v'Kamecha Parlei, take a little piece of earthware, and he start removing those dirt from Rabba's shoe. Ramu beramanan kala, so the rabbis that was there raised the voice, and they start screaming at the attendant. Amar lo mistayad lo gemire. It's not enough that they don't learn what's permitted, what is permissible. Migbar na gemire, and also want to teach us their mistakes. Ilu bechatzer avai, if this small earthware was in a courtyard, milo avachaze lechasuye b'mana, so you cannot use it to carry some vessels. So here in the public domain, it's good for me to remove the dirt from my shoes. So even that usually it's not in a public domain, but they carry this title of vessel, of kli. אמר רב יהודה מר שמואל מגופת חבית שנחתתה מותר לטלטל אותה בשבת. So Rav Yehuda Shmuel said that if you have a clay seal of a jar that was broken, it's permitted to move it on Shabbat. So he said, Tanina Me'achei, we learn also, מגופה שנתקטה היא ושבריה מותר לטלטלה בשבת, ולא יספוט מן שבר לחסות בית הכלי ולסמוך בה קרי המיטה. ואם זרקה בהשפעה, אסור. So we also told in Braita regard to clay seal that was broken, it's permitted to move it, and each shard is permitted to carry on Shabbat, and one may not break the shard from its cover vessel with no support the legs or the bed of it. So he said, but if one throw it in the garbage, if you throw it in the garbage, so it's no longer carry the definition of kli, so it's because it's garbage jam, and asur, so it's permitted to move it because it's set aside. It's like muktzeh in his consciousness is set aside for muktzeh. Matkif la Rav Papas or Rav Papa asked, "Ela mata zarik le leglimei." Hachenam the asur. If a person take his garment, a cloak, and put it in a garbage, so he cannot carry. Why? Because he put it in the garbage. So the whole idea of isn't the clock is still fit for use, and the status is not depend on his intention. So Rav Papa come and said, next page, just the first line of Kuf Kaf Hei 125. Im zraka mi ba'od yom la'ashpa asura. If he throw the clay seal of a jug into the garbage dump while it's still day before Shabbat, it's prohibited to move it on Shabbat. Why? Because he right away said, that the Rashi explained, that it's a muktzeh. Galedatem etmol, he retroactively tells us yesterday that he intend to have it, so it's basically the definition of muktzeh. And the Tosfot here, I wish to have time, and Ritva elaborate on that, but the idea is that you cannot carry it on Shabbat because it already that it's set aside for that use. Now we're going to practical halachot. Kol hakelim nitalim, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 308. Vessels whose primary function is for a permitted use may be moved for the benefit of the vessel itself, which means to move it from the sun to the shade. What says the Rabbi's interpretation in the unattribute Mishnah, but the Rashba, citing the Rambam, he ruled that it's prohibited to move the vessel for this purpose. Now we said en somchim et hakdera bab bekaat, we said that one may not prop a pot with a piece of food. It's prohibited to prop a pot or a door on a piece of food on a festival. That's Rambam Hilchot Yom Tov, chapter 4. Hotza'ah b'Yom Tov, so it is permitted to carry objects into a public domain for a specific purpose, even if they are not needed for the purpose of food preparation, there must say when it's a festival. That's according to Beit Hillel. But we said the whole idea of the status of a vessel, it means that that's the Rambam in Hilchot Shabbat chapter 25. He said it's prohibited to move an object that is not, never was a vessel, and is nothing more than a raw material, even the purpose of utilizing it or utilizing its location. Bashilim perot, it is permitted to lower fruit from its roof into, that's the Mishnah, into the house via a skylight on a festival, if it will be ruined by rain. However, on Shabbat it is prohibited to do so. That's the Mishnah. And ben Yom Tov leShabbat el ochel nefesh bilvad. Remember now, the halacha is very important. The only difference between festival and Shabbat is with regard to the preparation of food alone. Rambam, Hilchot Yom Tov, chapter 1, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 495. It is prohibited to perform any labor on a festival that is prohibited on Shabbat, whether by Torah law or by rabbinic decree, the Mishnah Berurah said, with the exception of activities involved in the preparation of food.
What about
what?
What about Beit Hillel saying we can carry anything on Shabbat, not just
on
food?
festivals?
On festivals.
I'm not talking about carries. I'm talking about.
But isn't that a prohibited malacha on Shabbat?
So let me finish the line.
Okay.
Just paraphrasing the Mishnah Berurah. Such activities include igniting a fire and carry items from one domain to another. Some authority prohibit carrying or igniting a fire if these activities have no specific purpose. So if there is a specific purpose, according to the way the Mishnah Berurah brought, then if it's a festival, that's a very different, as we said, than Shabbat. Tiltul shelo letzorech, if a person needs to carry not for the object, not for a specific purpose, it is prohibited to move an object whose primary function is prohibited in order to protect it from theft or destruction, which is neither for the purpose of utilizing the object or itself, or for utilizing its location. So we said it is permitted to move shards of utensils whose original function is permitted if the shards can be utilizing for any purpose, even for utensil broke on Shabbat. In accordance to with the unattribute Mishnah, if the shards are not suitable for use, it is prohibited to move them unless they pose for potential hazard. The Mordechai said it. According to the opinion that it's prohibited to move object that came into being on Shabbat, it is permitted to move the shards, provided that they can be used for the original purpose of the utensils. So we ask a question: what happens if the bricks that remain from a building? So the Rambam said in Hilchot Shabbat, chapter 26, he said it is permitted to move for one's own use bricks that remain from constructing a building, because he is no longer intends to build with them, but to use them for sitting and the like. If the brick are arranged in a stack, which indicates that the builder intend to use them for building, and they are therefore muktzeh, they set aside, it is prohibited to move them, even for the purpose of utilizing the object for itself or for making use for its location. That's the Magen Avraham in Mishnah Berurah. And that's basically according to opinion of Rav Nachman. The last halacha of today is cheres ktana. Remember the story in the public domain? If you have a small earthenware shard. So the Magen Avraham said, that's the Orach Chaim 308 Shinchet, it is permitted to move for a specific purpose an earthenware shard that broke off of a vessel either on Shabbat or during the week. This applies everywhere, including the public domain, in accordance to opinion of Rava, who is a later Amora, which means that it's coming close in a way to our time, and in accordance with the action, which is a greater halachic source. However, one must be certain not to carry 4 cubits in the public domain, because he will thereby violate the Torah prohibition. So it's a very sensitive, but the story with Rava, it's a very practical halakha story.